In the pre-dawn darkness of August 27th of 1891, the steam locomotive number 166 thundered out of Statesville, North Carolina. At 2:30 a.m., the powerful engine hauling a 6-carriage assembly that include first and second class compartments, a tender, a baggage car, a Pullman sleeper, and the superintendent's private quarters. The Western North Carolina Railroad's night train, part of the Richmond and Danville line, was on a mission to make up for lost time on its Salisbury to Asheville route, pushing speeds between 35 and 40 miles per hour to recover a 35-minute delay. The somnolent tranquility of the passengers was shattered without warning. Mere minutes after departure, the train approached the Bostian Bridge, a sturdy stone and brick structure designed to vault the train over the Third Creek, some 60 feet below. Then, in an instant of chaos, the unthinkable occurred. For reasons that remained a mystery, the train catastrophically derailed at the worst possible moment. The wooden carriages were no match for the forces unleashed, as they plummeted over 60 feet into the rocky embrace of the Third Creek's bed. The momentum was so fierce that the sleeper car was sent soaring a staggering 150 feet from the track before it met its end in the creek. The silence of the night was brutally broken by the fatality, pulling everyone into a scene of devastation. In an extraordinary twist of fate, some passengers aboard the ill-fated train miraculously survived the initial wreckage. These resilient souls, amidst chaos and ruin, had no choice but to undertake a harrowing trek back to Statesville Station to summon aid. As they awaited rescue, an unforeseen peril emerged. The nearby creek, its flow obstructed by the debris of the wreck, began to swell ominously. Tragically, the rising waters claimed the lives of some of the trapped survivors, adding a cruel epilogue to the disaster. In those days, Statesville and the surrounding hamlets were in lack of medical facilities. Thus, the wounded found refuge in the humble abodes of townsfolk who opened their doors and helped. A local farmer offered his tobacco warehouse as a grim repository for the dead, their bodies retrieved from the ruins by dedicated search and rescue teams. When the final tally was made, the catastrophe had taken 23 lives, either through the violence of the initial crash or the merciless ascent of the creek's waters. This catastrophe is etched into the history of Iredell County history as one of its most heartbreaking tragedies. The site became a media circus as haunting pictures of the devastation circulated in the local newspapers. Photographers like William Stimson and Mr. Vanis sold hundreds of photographs to people coming to see the wreck and watch the search and rescue proceedings. Almost a week after the incident, a coroner's inquiry officially determined the train derailed because some spikes holding the rails together had been stolen. Others speculated that the railroad and bridge's whole infrastructure had been shoddy for a while, and this kind of disaster had been inevitable. At the time, the railway experienced a shortage of finances, so they worked hard to find the culprits and stave off suits for damages. It took several years, but the Bostian train disaster was finally pinned on 2 men in 1897. The men were already in jail, and they had confessed the crime to their fellow inmates. Even though the suspects were captured, those who perished seemed to be still lingering. Every year on the anniversary, a ghost train replays its last trip. The year was 1941, 50 years to the day of the tragic train wreck. A couple's car had broke down on the side of the road. The wife was waiting for her husband to return with a new tire. There was a train whistle in the distance, and she felt the rumbling of an oncoming train. The headlights swept through the trees as she watched the old-fashioned steam locomotive head towards the Bostian Bridge. The train jumped its track to her horror as it hit the bridge and crashed into the creek bed. She could hear the splintering of the wooden cars and the passengers' screams, the crunching of metal. She ran to the embankment's edge and saw a twisted mass of wreckage being flooded by the waters of the third creek. She told her husband when he returned what she had seen and was about to send him for help. It was eerily silent when he ran to the side of the cliff where the creek ran below. There was nothing in the creek bed. He tried to play it off as a nightmare that she had fallen asleep while waiting for him. Determined that she had seen something awful, they went to the Statesville train station and talked to the clerk at the window. When she asked about a train wreck, he told her that there had not been an accident that night. But it was pretty strange that she was asking on the anniversary of the 1891 disaster, 50 years previous. As he explained the story of the disaster, the woman screamed in terror and fainted. She'd realized that she had seen a ghost train reliving its last moments. On other anniversaries, people claim to have heard the screeching of the wheels trying to stop and the screams from the doomed passengers. A ghostly figure of a uniformed railway employee who wears a gold watch showed up on the accident's first anniversary. It's believed to be the baggage master Hugh K. Leinster, who was found with a broken neck on the tracks. In 2010, on the 119th anniversary of the disaster, a team of amateur ghost hunters, about 10 to 12 people, came to the bridge to investigate and hopefully record the ghost train. 3 people were on the bridge illegally when at 2:45 in the morning, a Norfolk Southern train came barreling down the bridge. Since it was around the accident, those on the tracks were frozen, thinking it was the ghost train bearing down on them. Those few seconds that it took to realize that it was an authentic train aiming for them ended up costing them dearly. While 2 could escape with injuries, one 29-year-old man named Christopher Kaiser was killed when he was hit by the train. A woman that Kaiser was trying to save fell about 12 feet from the bridge and rushed to the emergency room in Charlotte due to her extreme injuries. And thankfully, she managed to survive the incident. When it comes to hauntings, there are a few different types that can be categorized together. The 2 broadcast categories of hauntings, either known as intelligent hauntings or residual haunting. An intelligent haunting is something like a poltergeist. The entity can be observed reacting to stimuli, and it tries to communicate with people. There's a semblance of sentience in the activity. It doesn't matter whether it's responding positively or negatively, as long as it's reacting. Now, a residual haunting is not intelligent. It can be described as a video clip playing on a loop. The spirit that walks the halls every night, taking the same path and never interacting with anyone, could be considered a residual haunting. So if a ghost walks through a wall, it's probably because in the recording, the wall originally wasn't there. The Bostian Bridge train wreck seems to be a residual haunting. When there's a major tragedy like that, the energy of the people's emotions and actions leaves an impression. So this impression will play itself repeatedly when conditions are right, like maybe the anniversary or the weather might be the same. Many believe that limestone records incidents better, so places with residual hauntings are usually near limestone deposits. It seems like the tragedy was such a horrible accident that the same train and its passengers left an imprint of their pain and anguish upon the land. And that imprint may continue to play out the incident for years and years to come, until there's absolutely no energy left to replay. It's not known if the hauntings or the ghost are real or just urban legend. But what is known is that the crash on 1891 really happened, and unfortunately the death of 2010 did as well. And that's why it is best to know the train track's schedule before attempting to be too close to it. Even though many stories are legend, tragedies really do happen. So if you decide to check out the Bostian Bridge on the anniversary, please stay away from the tracks and offer a moment of silence for those souls doomed to ride the rails forever. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Tales Told in the Dark, and I hope to see you guys in the comments. And you know I love my comments, so please comment, please subscribe if you haven't, like up this video, and most of all, please, if you like my content, please share it out. Thank you guys, I appreciate you so much, and I love you guys. See you next time.